But yeah, so welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to our second leadership one. The first one was a kind of whistle-stop tour of lots of different tools. This one was supposed to be face-to-face, but circumstances got ahead of us, so we made it online. And I know I've had a couple of you come to me and say, thank goodness it's online because I can dip in and out because I wouldn't have been able to make it otherwise. So we've probably done you all a favour. Good news is I am recording it, and that will be shared on our channel with everybody. So if we go too fast at any point, because it's three things in an hour and a half, then don't worry. I don't want anyone to watch me eating my lunch. I love it, Gillian. Yeah, so don't feel that you will have a chance to watch it back and pause and do whatever. But yeah, okay. So welcome back, Martin. Thanks for coming back to do this session, and I'm going to pass you over to Martin.
Thank you very much, Pam, and hello everybody. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for being kind enough to rearrange this to online. It is actually the circumstances is me not being able to get down just due to a few different things. So hopefully you can see my screen there. If you give me a wee thumbs up using the react button, just let me see that you can let me know that you can see the Google Gemini as an education leader screen. Perfect, thank you so much. So plan for today, as Pam says, is we're going to fire through three different things. We're going to look at Google Gemini from an education leader point of view. We're going to look at Notebook LM from an education leader point of view, and we're going to look at Adobe Express. There might be times for a wee bit of hands-on. I'm going to take you through a couple of demos and actually look at a few different things. Three sets of slides that will be shared with you at the end, and as Pam says, it's being recorded, so don't worry about trying to keep up with me. Just try and think about how this might apply to what you're doing. And we'll have time at the end for discussion. I did put questions at the end of each, but I think what we'll do is we'll just fire through and we'll just take questions at the very end and then see how that goes. How does that sound, Pam? Perfect, thumbs up, superb. So, as I say, the idea for today is through four different areas. We're going to look at Gemini on Glow, the access and privacy that we have to it. We spoke about this before, but it was very quick. We're going to do two demos, what I call the loud tasks and the quiet tasks. So the loud tasks is obviously the communication that you do. The quiet tasks are your strategy and your meetings, minutes and things of that nature. And then I'm going to give you a bit of time for some hands-on. There's two things to bear in mind with Gemini via Glow, using your Glow account. So accessible via the web browser. You can also use the app. It doesn't have quite the same feel to it, but you can use the app using your Glow account. And it's the education specific version. Now, what's actually quite good about this is there's a lot of different features that we're getting with this that really apply. You've probably seen in the news or heard that Google Gemini has really kind of taken off over the past certainly the past week, and we're lucky enough that we're getting some of these features. The great thing about this, about a tool like Gemini, about any kind of tool that we have that's enterprise based, is the level of data privacy and security that we get. Everything that you're going to share within Google Gemini is not used to train the wider model. So think of it like sitting in a wee sandbox, right? And the sand is going down. We get the benefit of more sand being topped up, but we don't chuck our sand out, right? So our sand doesn't go anywhere. It stays in this wee sandbox. We're in this wee kind of protected space. And the same rules apply with Google Gemini as it does with any other tool within Glow. For learning and teaching purposes or for communication purposes, no data, no sensitive or personal information to be shared within it. But to be honest, that's not really the purpose of what we're using it for. So what is Gemini? Essentially, for school leaders, and I just realised, Pam, this 3D model I have there actually looks a bit like you. If you cut your hair a wee bit, that would have been, if you had shorter hair, that would have, that was not intentional. That was not intentional. But the main thing about Gemini, now, I can say this hand on heart, and Pam knows this because she's in group chats with me. I use Google Gemini every single day. I use it for personal purposes. I use it for professional purposes. I use it to have a laugh. I use it to muck about. But what it does for me is it takes away that heavy lifting. Even sitting planning a session that I'm doing with you fine people today, I fired it into Google Gemini, refined it, went through and looked at a few different things. It can quickly take, right, the amount of papers that we as Education Scotland give out, that Renfrewshire Council will give out, the amount of strategy documents and papers that you will get as a senior leader is staggering. And sometimes going through those, you actually want to summarise it, you want to break it down, you want it to be a bit more concise. You can actually say to Google Gemini, I am a senior leader in a Scottish primary school and I am looking to draft a policy that will help increase numeracy skills within our school. Go. And it will start to go through and it will draft some ideas. And then you'll go back and forth and you'll look at it and it will do the heavy lifting. Right? It won't do the job for you. Right? This is not the I think I said it in the last one. Think about Gemini or any generative AI tool as kind of like Microsoft Clippy if he went to the gym, right? He's bulked up, he's got a bit more information, he's a bit more helpful, and it's able to do that heavy lifting aspect. It's able to help you think about the different ways that you're going to look at things, even building scenarios and helping you brainstorm and kind of it's quite good at back and forth. Now it does blow smoke up your butt, I do have to admit. It will respond to you and go, Martin, that is a brilliant idea. What a great way to engage senior leaders in Renfrewshire with. And you do feel like you dust off your shoulder a wee bit and you do feel quite good about yourself. But that's not a bad thing. It's like sometimes you just need someone to actually say to you, you're actually, what you're doing there is good. That's a good idea. Whether it's someone that's, you know, another senior leader or another head teacher that you're having a conversation with, whether it's someone like Pam, whether it's someone like myself, we do crave that reassurance that we are doing a good job. So sometimes having that humanification aspect within Google Gemini can actually be quite a good thing to make you go, right, I'm kind of on the right lines, but you always have that seed of doubt. And that's the good thing to have. You never take anything that Google Gemini tells you at face value. Because let's be honest, these are not self-thinking machines. These are machines that are trained on data. And what is the problem with data? The data has one key flaw in it, and that the data is generated by a human. And by our very nature, humans are flawed. So therefore, the data that we use to train the models are flawed. So we don't always get a perfect answer, but this is why it will never replace that knowledge acquisition. What it will replace is that ability to synthesize, to brainstorm, to draft, and to do the heavy lifting. So I'm going to take you through a quick demo. Sometimes when we're sitting there and we're creating something, we can sometimes set a blank page, or we can go to something that we have created previously and we could say, right, I am just going to copy and paste that. I'm going to change a few of the words. I have to admit, as a secondary maths teacher, I did that with my report cards quite a lot. Which is why sometimes my PT would come back to me and he would say, Martin, did you just copy and paste? I went, yep. He says, yeah, because you've referred to he as she, and you've referred to, their grades as her grade, whatever it was I'd done, because I'd got complacent and I'd taken my time with it. However, tools like this can help me generate different scenarios, or can help me generate different outputs that I might get. So let's take this one for example, and this is one that's actually quite near and dear to my heart. I've got a blue badge and I take my kids to school, and when I get to school, the blue badge spaces are always filled by people with non-badges and who use it as a drop-off zone. So if I was a senior leader within that school, I might want to draft an email out to parents and say, this is what we want to do. So this is what it would look like. So I'm just going to come out of this, and when you get these slides, if you're wanting to do this later, you can do. But I'm just going to copy and paste this, right? Now, Google Gemini, as I said before, sits on your Glow Launchpad, right? If you can't find it, you can search for Launchpads with Gemini. Or when you're logged in to Glow, you can just open a new tab and go to gemini.google.com, and it will open up a wee tab like that. Okay, so we can do this. We can start to use this and just make it. Sorry, Jerry, I just muted you there. I think your mic was on just by accident, or maybe on purpose. I don't know, but I muted you just in case you're wondering what happened. So with your prompt, there's different things. I'll show you if we will have time at the end. I'll show you the cool image generation stuff. But I'm just going to paste this in. Now, if I wanted to be a wee bit more concise, a good prompt is very much like a good prompt is very much like a good Google search. You can use Boolean values. You can, that's all right, Jerry, don't worry about it. You can use and, or, you can use these different things. So I'm going to say I am a primary school head teacher, and I want to draft a compassionate but firm email to parents regarding new parking restrictions, emphasising, and this is what we can always do, pupil safety. I also wish to draw attention to non-blue badge holders using the disabled phase. Okay, so just a quick prompt, and then what it does is it actually takes you to this, what we call canvas, right? It does it automatically just by the prompt. So see what I said about blowing smoke up your butt? There we go. That sounds like a necessary but albeit sensitive conversation to have. It's key when it comes to safety, right? So now you can take a look at it and you could say, right, dear parents and guardians, I'm writing today about a matter of utmost importance. So what I might do at this stage is just kind of copy that, right? So I can just click and drag, or I can do Control A when I'm inside it and just highlight all. You can then copy it. You do have this option to create here, where it can create these things like a web page or an infographic, or an infographic's quite a good one that you can do now. It's a different way to take things. But if I wanted to, I just could copy and paste this, put it into a Word document or a Google document, and then send it out. I could send it out to all the school email addresses. But before I do so, obviously checking everything, going through and making sure we're referring to things in the right way. We're saying students, not pupils. We are talking about start dates. We are talking about there will be an emerification to this because of the fact that it's mostly trained on US English. So sometimes you might have to go through and make it a bit more specific to how we might do it. We might not necessarily go down the Scottish route and go, oh, stop parking there, otherwise your motor's going to get tanned, right? You do make it a bit more professional. You do, but what's great about that is it can quickly generate anything you need. Now we have the option to go with some of these different tools. I mean, what it's doing there is it looks like it's creating a web page, when really what it's actually doing, when this stops spinning, it will give me a preview of an infographic. But while it's doing that, if I go to Google Docs and start a new document, I can paste in my text. Now this is where I could add in my school logo if I wanted to. So I could insert an image where I could upload, or I could search. Let's just search the web and go for school. I could just drag this over. Obviously, I'm just doing this because I don't have an image of my school available, but I could have this at the top, right? Where I could then send this as an email, or I could send it as an attached document. So obviously the human factor still comes into this. The aspect of this is still very clear. The key part, strict no waiting zones, we might actually call that strict no parking zones, right? Because we don't do no waiting, right? Designated yellow zigzags, stopping even momentarily. Okay, so I might not use strictly forbidden. I might say it's strictly prohibited. But what I could also do is I could go back to Google Gemini. I mean, there's our infographic now that I could share, right? And Pam saw that I shared last night, a web page that I'd quickly created that is all of our events for live lessons. And it was just, you know, it's not
Coming out
perfect.
next week.
Yeah. Um, and it's so easy and quick to do. What it comes down to is, what is it I'm actually trying to do? So if you might not do it for absolutely everything, you might be quite confident at doing it at this aspect. But I could go back and I could say, replace the word student with pupils. Do not refer to, and then I'll put it in brackets, no waiting zones. We use the phrase no parking, right? And it will just say, I've updated this. And then what will happen is it will give me the updated. I'll also update the infographic. So it does everything once you've created something. Now, that does mean that I would go back and delete this, but I would, you know, I've kind of done this at arse to elbow, forgive my French, because I would make the changes before I would copy and paste. But what I like about this is the quick and easy way that I can actually look at this. I can copy and paste this. I could do whatever I need to do in this regard. And this is where the power of Google Gemini as a senior leader really becomes apparent, because we can take something like this and we can quickly draft or create or get the ideas that we need for going forward. If I just show you some of my chats that I've been working with, I could say, right, what are the principal uses of creating images is quite a good one. That's what a lot of people do. But I might actually look at, here's the plan that I did yesterday that I shared with Pam. Now I just started with this. Now you see, the longer the prompt, the more concise it is. So you need to almost have it within a conversational style. I am planning a week of live lessons. I have went through, that was not the original. This is the original. This is the original. This is not what I sent out. So it doesn't give me the final product, but it gives me a starter for 10. And to be perfectly honest, getting that starter for 10 is sometimes where we find that bottleneck, isn't it? Where we find that level of frustration, because we know that we need to do something, even for our teachers, when we're working with teachers and we're looking at what these tools can do. A lot of the time, they're like, I had so many ideas, I didn't really know where to, I was just, so jot them all down and ask Gemini to make it more concise. Put them all down. And the other thing you can do is, if you've got a Word document, you can just copy and paste that as your as your body of your text, and then say underneath, I want to update this to reflect current standards, or I want to update this to reflect current policy changes, or things of that nature. So there's all of these types of aspects that can be really quite interesting. Another one that I find quite good, I'm going to start a new chat, and let's say, as a senior leader, I am introducing the updated digital skills for teachers toolkit to staff in my school, using the using the attached document as a template. Create a slide deck I can use to introduce the key talking. Right, so I've given my prompt. I'm introducing the updated digital skills for teachers toolkit to staff my school, using the attached document as a template. Create a slide deck that I can use to introduce the key talking points to my staff. So here I'm going to tap plus, because what I'm actually going to have to do is upload a file within my download folder, or whatever you've been working. So within my downloads folder, I should have, this where I've been working with different parts. But within my downloads folder, thought I had it, 2 secs. If I just go to did you learn? So here is the updated document. So what I might want to do here is download it. Let's download it to my computer. You can see it's the November 2025. So I'm going to save it to my downloads. In fact, it was in my drive, I swear. So let's just save it to my downloads folder. Back to Gemini, tap my plus button, upload files. Files downloaded. My downloads folder now should be sitting. There we go. And open. Need to re-enter my prompt. I am okay. Typing too fast and I hit enter. Using the let's update. Okay, so I've updated the document, updated the prompt. You can see my silly fingers were going just a bit too fast. It's going to construct the brief. It's going to develop structure, give me the style. Because what it's doing right now is it's analysing that document. So it's only using that document. It's not going out to the web. It's not doing anything else. But it is going to build a slide deck that's going to have images that it's searched and images that it's went to Google Images. It gives attribution to those images as well. So it means if you do have a new talking point, if you have a new skill improvement plan, if you have something that you need to share with staff, you can do so just by updating the document and saying, I want to introduce this, create a slide deck. Takes a couple of minutes. Now the slide deck I'm using with you guys has been created using Google Gemini, but I went and spent some time and took out some of the formatting, added in my own images, but it saved a lot of time. It saved a lot of the heavy lifting and it just made things that little bit easier in that regard. And that's really where Gemini for anyone, any generative AI, but something like Gemini, which actually has the power of Google behind it, makes it that little bit easier. It's a bit smoother. It feels like it's taking forever, and you do sometimes get people going, oh, it's a bit slow, but it's a lot faster than you sitting there and actually making this yourself, especially when it's went and created a 12 deck presentation for me. It's even given me the Education Scotland text at the top. And then as I scroll through, gives me the 5 core digital skills, including little graphics. Right? Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty impressed that this is just created based off a document. I'm not too shabby looking. Now, someone that quite likes having a plain looking good slide deck, I quite like this, right? Because it even includes images, right? Zoom, Teams, Google Meet. You even get the logos down the bottom for the, I don't know if you can see that. Right, video calls. It's got the logos. It's include. I mean, that's just short of voodoo, right? That as a senior leader, where time is the most valuable commodity that we have and the thing that we probably struggle with the most in order to get the information out with our staff. This saves a heap of time, especially if because you can go away, you can upload the document and then you can go away and come back, and you can be dealing with something else. You could be doing because then all I need to do, you'll notice down the bottom here, right? In fact, if I take that out, if I notice down the bottom here, I can start to even change the background, or I can save it to slides. Okay, so it says your slide deck is there. Feel free to take a look and just right. So it says take your skills. It even gives me a QR code that should take me to it. But if it doesn't, that means, right, I need to go back and edit it. So it might not be 100% perfect all of the time, but it puts in a bit for question. And then, as I says, it gives you your image sources. So when I am done with it, right, and as I start to look and I go back, I need to refresh page. Go back in. There we go. See that button up there that says export to slides? I knew there was something missing at the top. So when I tap export to slides, it gives me a little notification down here that it's creating the slides. And then when I'm done, all I need to do is tap open slides and it will open Google Slides. If you prefer working in Microsoft PowerPoint, you then have the option to go to File, Export, PowerPoint, work in there, but it does the heavy lifting for you, right? So there are those aspects where you're kind of sitting there going, yep, that's where I'm going to use it. That's where it's kind of, because there is the document. Now I can see here that this QR code and this link aren't actually right. So that's where I could change my hyperlink, because the hyperlink is there. I could go through and I could say, right, let's remove the link or put in the actual link that I need to, but it has done the majority of the work for me. And I will keep saying that because that's the sort of the key aspect here. Another option that you could use with it is actually looking to see whether it is matching up with what we're doing within the national frameworks. Now, we don't necessarily have to upload the national frameworks because it can just use Google to search for that in the background. It's not uploading any data, but it will use that. Google will already have access to that. So we could upload or copy and paste key bullet points from our school improvement plan that doesn't make mention of anything else, and just kind of say, how are we hitting this? Or even taking an HMIE report and the school improvement plan and say, where are we hitting, maybe our last inspection report, and we can compare and contrast where is our current school improvement plan addressing the issues that have been highlighted within this HMIE report. That's a huge boost, because it then means we could come back and we could say, right, this has given me the data that's kind of said we're maybe missing here, here, and here. Do we think that's real? Do we think that's actually accurate? Or should we go back and address this again? So, as I say, the golden rule when using Google Gemini as a leader is, first of all, as I said, no personal or sensitive information, nothing from CMIS, nothing that includes names, dates of birth of teachers, pupils, dogs, anyone that is tied to the school, no personal or sensitive information. It should all be generic teaching and learning, school improvement plan, those types of things focused. You are still the key individual in this, and this is true for any generative AI tool that you use. This is like driverless cars. Driverless cars are great, but I still want my hands on the wheel. I still want to be ready to take control when I need to. And that's exactly what we do with generative AI. We take control. We look at what we are doing. We do not rely on AI to make decisions, right? As I say, this is not Skynet. This is not Skynet. This is Clippy. Clippy can't do things without our say so. It can't do it without our input. And at the end of the day, that's because we as the individual are still accountable. If we produce something, if we share something and it has a massive mistake in it, it's not, you can't say, oh, Google Gemini wrote that for me, because then you just look 10 times worse. In fact, this actually shows where my level of Kim Kardashian went to sit the bar exam in LA, failed it. Why? Because she used ChatGPT to study for the answers and it got the answers wrong. There's case in point about why we don't use AI as a decision maker. It's also why we don't give celebrities access to, tools that they can then use to mess things up. Hallucinations are those things where it slightly gets it wrong, and it's like it's where it maybe thinks that Scotland is aligned with the Norwegian education system, or something like that, and you could say, well, actually you got that wrong. So always verify information that it's given you, right? Because sometimes all it takes is like you coming back and going, actually that's not 100% accurate, this is what should have happened, you're 100% right. I did this with the Drivers' Championship in Formula One where I actually said, well, based on current performance, blah, 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 and it came back and it went, actually, you're right. Looking at current up to date, it does look like the favorite is Max Verstappen. Yes. So that is where, you can start to input data like that. See, when I say I use AI every day, I use AI every day for absolutely everything. But I don't rely on it to give me the final answer. I rely on it to give me the heavy lifting. And I always, 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 always check it for accuracy and whether it's right. So, not going to do this part, right? Because I'll let you guys. This is something that you can take away, right? Because you'll be getting the slides. You can take this away, but you can just copy and paste, right? Because this is two key activities that I want you to try, right? When you put in a prompt, don't take that as the final answer. Go back and say, rewrite it. I want it to be sharp. I want it to be sharper and shorter. Those are two words you really shouldn't try and say back to back, because I made a slight faux pas there. So I want it to be shorter and sharper, right? I don't want it to be anything that requires a change of underwear. So I want it to be more concise. I maybe want it to sound a bit more professional. I maybe want it to include a bit of at the end of it, I want to start including motivational quotes. Right? And then you can become known as the head teacher that includes motivational quotes. But what Gemini will do is it'll remember what you did previously, and it shouldn't repeat the quote each time, because you could say include a new quote, right? Using my last email as a template, um, include a new quote at the end, right? Something like that, and it's just a nice thing to do, because remember, this is no different than going to Google and saying, give me a quote by a Scottish poet and tapping enter. All you're doing here is kind of combining going to Google, finding what you need to do, copy and paste and putting it into your document. This is kind of create the document and using Google in the background, because that's where the power of this really comes into, is the fact that it's got Google search driving it. And we'll come back to questions at the end. Is everybody happy with that? If you're happy with that, give me a thumbs up. If you want me to cover anything one more time, give me a shocked face. If not, I'll move on to the next part of the Notebook LM. Awesome. Perfect.
Uh,
Jot down any questions. Pam, was that okay with you?
yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Awesome.
You can't keep saying it often enough that it helps you, and it's how you use it to
Yep.
help you in your day to day. Absolutely. Fab.
Perfect.
Right, I'm going to stop talking. Right,
That's all
it's
right.
five
Right.
past,
Number
20
two. Look
minutes.
at. I know.
Go.
Here we go. Right. So the next level of that is Notebook LM. So Notebook LM is still using Google Gemini, but the difference with Notebook LM is it is only using it based on documents that you upload, right? It will only do it based on the documents that you are sharing. It won't go out to the wider web. So this is where you can actually be a wee bit more concise and you can be a wee bit more focused on certain things. So again, I'm going to show you four key parts of this, right? What we call grounded AI, right? So this is AI that lives in a vacuum. The audio overview feature, which I demonstrated very, very briefly, but actually will show you just how powerful and impactful it can be. And also, in fact, how it can take a deep dive into a policy and a data, including creating an infographic and different things that you can do, because it's a good visual aspect. And then having that opportunity for takeaways again. Right, so the two key differences here, grounded AI versus OpenAI, not the company, but the concept. OpenAI as a company is named after this. So Google Gemini, ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, they are all what we would call open AI systems, right? We have an enterprise level security on the Google Gemini we have, that it doesn't go out and train, but it gets the benefit of the training coming in. I mentioned that earlier. That is all pre-trained information, and that's how those answers are generated. It goes out to the wider web, the information, and that's where the flaw with information can be. That's where the hallucinations, that's where the bias can come in. However, Notebook LM is more grounded. Notebook LM is only using the information that you upload. If you upload something and you ask it a question and that answer isn't there, it will say, I can't answer that because the information isn't there. It won't go out to the web and try to give you an answer. It also won't blow smoke up your butt the same way Gemini does. This is very much a training, learning, really manipulating in that you can manipulate information, right? You can mold that information to what you need it to be. So the best thing about the privacy and safety, and as you can see, I've had a lot of fun with generating these images today, but there we have, you're essentially in a wee shield, right? You are, there's strict data standards, right? There's no training. It's not trained on anything. It's not going to use the notebooks that you generate to train any of it. It's that private sandbox. It's a sand being poured in, but none of it being chucked out or spilled between users. And right now, it's only available to educators, right? Pupils don't have access to Gemini or Notebook LM. I should have mentioned that earlier. That might change. It would be great if we could get that. Google do have a level of it, but there's a few hoops that we have to go through in order to get that going. This is the killer feature of it. This is where everyone really started gaining traction with it, right? Busy, we listen to podcasts, we listen to things. I know Pam loves the audio overview feature. I think she uses this more than anything else. This is where anything that we get given, documents, emails, a heap of HMIE report can be a really huge one, but you could upload this into Notebook LM and you get that overview, right? In the mind map option as well, Pam, absolutely. So if we take something that is like a 40-page HMIE report, for example, right, or a new government consultation paper, we can listen to that summary, right? It doesn't have to be in our commute. We can listen to it in class. We can in our offices. We can have it playing. We can download it as a file. We could share that with our teachers within our school. We could put it into a Microsoft OneDrive or a Google Drive folder and say, I've created an audio overview of the HMIE report. The document is in there, but if you guys just want to listen to the overview, that's also a good idea. So we can take heavy documents, right? So we can upload complex documents like the NIF, right, or the local authority circulars, information that Pam sends you out, information that we send you out from Ed Scott. But then what you could actually say is, right, what are the key reporting parts that have been added into this? What are the changes to the policy, for example? Or you could say draft a 3-point summary of this document for the parent council, right? So let's just take that education Scotland digital toolkit one as an example again. So I'm going to go back to my launchpad. Gemini was there. If I do a search for notebook, Susan's actually been quite good and created this. Google didn't have a Notebook LM tile, but Susan on the Glow team actually created this for us. Or your other option is you could just go to notebooklm.google.com. And as Pam says, make sure you're signed in with your local authority, your Glow account for this, rather than your personal one, because there are differences. And with your personal one, you don't get the data privacy in the same way that you do with Glow. So as you can see, I've got a number. Obviously, I've done this a few times where I've actually had to, sit and show different examples. But if I create a new notebook, it will ask me to upload. Now, I could upload different sources, different files. I'm just going to choose a file that I have already created. In fact, I've already downloaded it, so it was sitting in my downloads folder. There we go. Open it, uploads that, and it creates a notebook based on this. It will summarise it, digital literacy and resilience for Scottish educators, and it's built it up here. Now I could get a video overview, but I could say, what are the key updates to this document? Okay, now it's only using this document. So it's given me my key updates here, and I could say, what is the recommended device for schools? And it says, well, look, it doesn't actually recommend a specific device type. But what it does tell you is focuses on the skill. So it's not about the device, it's about the skill, right? And it says, right, settings menu, when using the devices, educators, and it references, see these have referenced back to the original document where you can find it. You can find it on page 1, page 2, page 3, section 4. Right, but I could say, you know what, I actually want to have an audio overview, but before I tap that, I want to edit it just a wee bit. I could say, right, I don't want a deep dive because that's going to be quite a big conversation. I want it to be a brief summary, and I want to focus on the key skills educators should have. Tap generate. This takes about 90 seconds roughly. The longer the document, the longer the processing. If you want it, I saw this little graphic on Threads the other day that says if you want something to be fast and good, it can't be cheap. If you want it to be cheap, it can't be good, and things like that. So it's, if you want something to be as good, it's going to take a bit of time, right? Because it is going through this document and it is essentially generating it. But once it's generated, it's generated. Now you see the fact that I can ask different questions, I could ask it to focus on something, I could ask it to be specific with what we are looking for and how we are looking at things. That's where the Notebook LM. Now you see these two things are grayed out, right? These were just made unavailable, but these are just brand new, right? So this is doing the same thing as Gemini does. The only difference is Gemini is using the wider web, whereas Notebook LM is using just your document. So you can be a bit more specific with things. So all, yes, I've done the same thing in Gemini and I've done the same thing in Notebook LM. The difference is how it has processed that data. Now it's only used the document in this case. So if you have something like an HMIE report that you're wanting to get specific information from, if you have a policy document that's been sent out by the local authority, or if you've had the updated numeracy outcomes, or something, the health and well-being or the early level guidance, that's where Notebook LM really comes into effect. I find it great for taking big, long policy documents and condensing it down. What do I need to know as a teacher? What do I need to know as an educator? What do I need to know as a senior leader? You can ask it those questions specifically and it will scroll through that document. Doesn't mean that you don't need to read it, but what it does do is you could say, right, I'm doing that. I'm going to go off and answer a couple of emails because I can shift tabs, I can shift tiles, right, there we go. So I could look at this, I can go through it, I could say, right, what are the key things that I need to know, respond to a couple of emails, go back to Notebook LM, right, that's still processing, I'll maybe go and do what I need to. So you don't need to necessarily, you can get on with the other things that you need to do while this is doing it, instead of, spending the amount of time that we would have scrolling through, knocks on the door, we need you to come out, such and such has fallen, there's been kids fighting, the pipes have just exploded in the girls' toilet, or all of the day-to-day things that we tend to deal with as senior leaders, or there's a parent that's come up to discuss something. This is working in the background. So this is what's good about this, is this is being your friend, this is being your tool. Pam.
I was just going to say, I took a document that Janie, our director, sent out about enhancing relationships and behaviour in Scottish schools. So I've just shared it with those of you that I could very quickly find your Glow email. I'm popping it into the chat. If you click on it and you can't get access to it, pop your Glow in the chat and I'll add you to it so you can see it. But it's exactly what Martin's talking about there, an example of how it's taken, and there was links and there was documents and there was stuff from Scottish Government and it was all in there. And again, you'll see down the side, I do love the audio. So the audio overview's there, and there's also what I love, the mind map in this case, because I can drill down to different parts of the documents that are uploaded. But yeah, I'm just sharing that with you as an example of how, as a leader, I would have used it.
And that's another brilliant example of how, even if I take like digital competency framework, So digital teacher skills toolkit, that you can see this is the old one, but I can create a quiz. I can even create audio in a different language. Right, that's another aspect. You could actually, translate it to German and have it produced. You could have it produced in that. That is also awesome, because if you have from a teacher point of view, if I have a document or if I have a resource that I need to share with a pupil who maybe has EAL, then I can tailor the output to their specific language and they can hear it based on their. So there we go. Right. So hopefully.
So, what's this all about? Well, this guidance basically lays out the non negotiable digital skills every single educator needs, from early learning all the way to community settings. It's all about making sure you can handle your day to day work safely and efficiently based on the UK's official framework. First up, cyber resilience and data security. Look,
So it just takes those key talking points where I could change the playback speed if I wanted to. So I'm one of these nut jobs that listen to podcasts on 1.5 speed just because you get through them quicker. But as I say, when you're looking at this, you could make the language German, right? You just choose the output language. And you could say I want it to be uh, Polish, or we have obviously a few refugees that have been coming over, where we could get Ukrainian, but you can see we have the Cyrillic. So you would need to know what these languages actually look like, and I think that one might be Ukrainian. So you can have these generated. You can still make it short, brief, critique. So it's just as Pam says, when you get these large documents that have key deliverables for education, that are key deliverables for our schools as part of a local authority, we sometimes can get bogged down in reading through a document when sometimes we just want to get what the key points are. How does this affect my school? How does this affect my staff? How does this affect my improvement plan? So you could upload your improvement plan. You could upload the document that you've had from Janie about health and well-being, or improving relationships, and you could say, how is our improvement plan currently addressing the improving communication? Where are the gaps in our improvement plan? You could get audio feedback. You could get these things coming through, and it would really give you that bit where you could go, right, okay, that's where the gap is. That's how things can come together. And then, as I say, once you have created it, right, you have the option to just tap the ellipsis at the end there, and you can download it. Right. So when you download it, it goes into the downloads folder of your laptop, the My Documents folder. But then you can share it, right? You can put it into a Google Drive. You can put it into OneDrive. You can put it onto a team site. You could put it on, if it's an audio podcast of the school inspection report that has been published, you could put that on the school blog and say, here are the sort of the key takeaways from our inspection report. Again, if it is a document that is readily available and folk could find by having it, if it was something you were going to send out anyway, why not send it out as an audio podcast? Right? Why not do that? Because that's how a lot of parents start to consume content. A lot of parents will either consume content in short form, brief snippets. TikTok is ruining brain cells, but it is the way that people are consuming content just now. And we can either embrace that and give them information in a format that they're going to consume, or we can, you know, bang our heads off the wall and say we can't. We are finding this at Education Scotland level. Pam's finding it at Renfrewshire level. We know that all local authorities are struggling with a lack of engagement, and we're trying to ask the question why. And I think the question why, or the answer to that, sorry, is because we're sharing things in a longer format than what people are used to consuming now. There is a reason that American shows on Netflix are now adopting the British model of having a 6 episode season, because I'm rewatching old shows and I get to episode 6 and I'm like, get to the point. 20 we used Go ahead, Pam.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, 24 episodes can be quite hard to remember what happened in
Yeah.
episode 2 that
How
comes
did
back in 24.
yeah, how did we actually get through 24 episodes in a season when now, you're looking at, there's Stranger Things coming out on Friday. It's going to be 5 episodes for part one. Each episode is going to be 2.5 hours long, right? And you're kind of sitting there going, that's loads. Is it tonight, Gillian? Thanks, right? Because I had it in my head it was the 28th, but because my daughter's sitting there going, she either wants to watch the finale of Dancing with the Stars or Stranger Things. So I'm trying to download Dancing with the Stars just now so that she can watch it. Anyway, that's me going off on a tangent. I'm going to stop. But does anybody want any more info on Notebook LM just now, or does that is that giving you a wee idea of a way in which you may use it as a senior leader?
I think
Do,
that was
yeah.
fab, Martin. I'm just going to say I did share that with some people. If it didn't come through, it's because you weren't asking with your glow, and I need your glow. So Bridget or Sharon, give me your glow and I'll share it with you. Cool. Go on, Kat.
Catherine.
Sorry to be a
It's all
big
right.
paste, but I'm trying to follow on and try different things as you're talking.
Uh-huh.
But every time I'm trying to get this kind of the desktop version, it just sucks me back into Glow and it looks totally different. Is there like, I
What are
don't
you
know,
on? Are you on?
I, I'm just on my work laptop and I've got you on a different laptop.
Right.
Yeah.
But it keeps
What
making me go through Glow and it looks
you
totally
have
different to
to,
yours.
yeah,
You have to go through. You
have
have to
to go
go
through
through
glow.
Glow. So
Yeah.
if you're on a corporate laptop, my advice would be, see, I'm not using Edge, but what you can do is in the three dots, you can usually get like a new incognito tab. That sometimes works. So if you try going to a new incognito tab, log into Glow, and then open Notebook LM, you should get to a similar page to mine.
What happens all the time because we're across different,
Cross,
because
yeah,
we've got
Of
like Glow
course, yeah.
Network and
two
the schools
tenancies.
network, the
Yep,
two tenancies, you end up signed in. So, like Martin says, Incognito solves that problem. Or, like I do, I use Edge for all my school stuff and I use Glow, I use Chrome for all my Glow
Yeah.
stuff, and that
yeah,
just
I do
keeps
the
my
same.
two. It just keeps them separate. It's just
Yeah,
a way in my head to separate them, but the Incognito talk tab works just as well. But that'll
yeah.
be
Okay,
what it is.
thank you.
Somewhere in the background, you're signed in to your school's network, which is why you're not seeing it, and you'll be seeing like a personal version. You're seeing not the Glow
Yes, yep,
version.
yep.
Yeah, that's what it is,
Yep.
Kat. Yeah,
Thank you.
no
There's
worries.
always a simple answer, Cat. Don't worry. Absolutely fine. Smashing. Right. Let's hash on with the final bit, which is Adobe Express, which is the fun bit now. Why is that? Have to quit this window. Come back into it. Don't worry, I've not got anything untoward. Yeah. So the only thing you'll see is a white Red Bull car from the Japanese Grand Prix. That's the only thing. Slightly obsessed, but who cares? So good fun. Right. Here's how you can give your communication with parents a bit of creative flair to it. One of the other things that we have as teachers in Renfrewshire is access to Adobe Express, right? Which is, Adobe Express. If you've used Adobe Spark or you use Canva, they're the same thing, right? I'm not going to spend too much time talking about why we use Google Express. It's just really good at helping us create visually appealing documents. I'm going to do a couple of live demos just to show you how easy it is to do. And then you can go off later and try a hands-on, and then we'll finish up with the next steps and talk about a few different things. So, the thing I love about Adobe Express is that kind of visual impact, right? Something that is easily creatable, that has, if we think of desktop publishing and all of these kind of older skills that people have, they're not always necessarily relevant because we want something that can happen faster, right? The fact we have this access via Glow as well means that we can use it. And within school, we can use it on any device. I did training for staff. Pam was a thing I spoke about last week, but I did training for staff, and in the class we had iPads, Chromebooks, and Windows laptops. Does that sound familiar to your local authority? I think it might do. So the fact that as educators and as pupils we have access to this regardless of the device means that as senior leaders we could do something a little bit more snappy with our flyers and templates and information bits. This is the fun stuff, right? This is you won't always do this type of thing, but this is when you do it, it's going to be good. Again, Adobe Express is on your Launchpad. If you can't find it, just search up on Launchpads. On mine, I've made it third because I've rearranged things. You rearrange it as you wish, favorite it. First time you might sign in, it might have you just confirm that you're doing it as education. And again, I would make sure you're kind of logged in via an incognito browser with your, just because then it makes things that little bit easier, just in case you get cross contamination of just takes you in a spin. You don't want to do it. Okay, I'm going to create an interactive newsletter. Right, I'm not going to spend too much time with this. As Pam says, it's being recorded, and all of these lessons are available via the Adobe. The main things to take away from this is there are multiple templates on here that you can use. You can make things interactive. You can match your school logo with what you're with what you're sending out. You can add in a video quite easily, right? You can record a video of yourself sharing a welcome. It could be something for the parents, and you can also share it as a link. So you could have it as a QR code when parents come in, that they scan it, it would then download it and they would have an interactive version of this newsletter. We don't need to print this stuff. That's where, using digital to create something you're just going to print, you'll lose the benefits of what digital can do, which is that interactivity. So, as I say, it exists on your Launchpad. If you don't have it, you just do a search for Adobe, takes you to Adobe Express, tap it to launch. You'll get your first time signing in, does it all in the background, but then it takes you to your Adobe Launchpad. Now you can see there's various things that you can do. Create a poster. There's these Christmas activities that you can do as well. They're quite good. If you're wanting to do your own CLPL, you have this option to learn down here, and it will take you through how to use these different things. Enhance student voice with responsible generative AI. Get started with classrooms, all of which we don't use, but how to, it's a great video editor. It's, there's a lot of great things that happen with it. But I am going to go home, and I'm going to do a search up here for school, what did I call it before? School newsletter. You can see there's loads of templates here. You can even see I've got ones that I've been creating. There's backgrounds, there's assets, there's even websites. You can build like little web pages. So it's that's actually quite good for learners building little portfolios of knowledge. However, we're going to use these templates here. I'm going to tap View All. And you can see there's various templates. You can also refine it by location. So I just want United Kingdom. That's where it's going to be using English UK. The output, I could even say I want it as I could have the size, I could have the type, or I could have the style. Mood is going to be, you know what, let's go with groovy, just because I don't think we do too many groovy things anymore. Right, and let's say, right, let's go with this one. Okay, so quite happy with this. Tutoring new students, customizing template. There we go. And this, hypothetical, I am your new head teacher, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, just going to take out the text, and I'm going to say a welcome from Mr. Coots. Obviously, she's not Mr. Coots, so I'm going to take her out. Wrong one. I'm going to change the background. Right, I'm actually going to take this out, and I'm going to change the background color to match. In fact, I need to go and I'm going to look for just because this was where we were meant to be today. Just because St. Burns doesn't exist anymore, I'll need to take Castlehead. Suck. Just kidding. Right, so let's just paste that in. So that was just Control C, Control V. Let's increase the size, put it down here. And you know what? Let's keep that going. So I'm going to make my background color match. Okay. I'm going to make my text color match. Right. You see how quickly I'm starting to add things in. What I'm also going to do is I am going to add an image that I have of myself. So I'm going to upload at the side here, and I'm going to add in an image of me. There we go. Right, so uncanny resemblance, but you'll also notice it's got a blue background. I don't really want that. So you can see here that I could tap remove background, and what it's going to use here is AI to remove the background. And now moves a wee bit. Put it there. Not looking too bad. Might change this, and I could say and I could also say I'm a part-time head teacher, so I'm working Thursday to Thursday, just because why not? But you can see how quickly we can start to do this, right? We can start to add in a few different things. Now, with it being me, I like to be a bit, daft with it, right? So I might want to add in something a bit more interactive, right? Let's take that out, right? So I've created it's not bad for 4 minutes work, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to media, and I'm going to go to videos, and I'm going to animate a character, right? This is the really cool part. So if I animate a character, right, I could choose someone that looks like me. So let's take Calvin, and I'm going to make my background transparent. In fact, no, let's go with Ruth. Right, let's go with Ruth Burnett. Right, she's going to work with me, and I'm going to use this enhanced speech. Now, this is the key part about this as a head teacher. We don't necessarily need to include our voice. In fact, I'll use cut. We don't have to include a video of ourselves. We can just include our voice as an introduction that we could then share. So I'm going to tap record, enhanced speech. If you're in a busy school or in a packed office and there's noise going on in the background, you'll get all of these things happening. The enhanced speech takes that out, right? You won't hear any of that in the background. So when I record, I'm going to be chapping on the background just so you can hear it come out. Right? Welcome to the new year. My name is Mr. Coots. I'm your new head teacher, and I am delighted to be working with you all. Let's make this a good year, and don't forget, you can always knock on my door if you have any questions. Tap done. And it's going to do this wee bit in the background. The noisier the background, the longer it takes to enhance, right? It's going to take some time, and this does rely on your device having an internet connection. So this does require you to be in a pretty good part of the school that's got good Wi-Fi connection, or you're plugged in to your dock and you've got access to your Ethernet. learners can start to do this. This is possibly going to be a bit more professional looking the further up you go. Not that primary schools don't create professional looking documents, but primary schools, let's face it, have a little bit more personality to them sometimes, don't they? Because we know secondary can sometimes be a bit bogged down. But this is adding this to my newsletter. Okay, and when I press play on this guy,
hello and welcome to the new year. My name is Mr. Oots. I'm your new head teacher and I am delighted to be working with you all. Let's make this a good year, and don't forget you can always knock on my door if you have any questions.
okay, now you noticed at the start you could still hear the chapping, but then the chapping went away. So while it's using AI to take all of that out, it won't work. It won't be 100% perfect, but it will make a huge difference. So now, if I wanted to share that with everybody, I could just tap share, and I could make this could make it an edit, or I could just share this part here, which is called a view only link. Now, the best part about a view only link is if I change anything in my document, that will be reflected. So if I create a newsletter at the start of the year, and I create the view only link, and I add pages to that newsletter that are then going to be the next month or the next term, I don't need to keep sending out the link. I can just say, this is the newsletter for the year. It will be updated as we go through. And it might just be a group call getting sent out to say, newsletter has been updated, check your original link. So you can start to save time by just creating one newsletter, because when I copy this now, and I go into Teams, this should work. So if I go into chat, hopefully you guys should now be able to see that, right? And if I make any changes, I could say, right, I am working Monday to Friday. When I go to share in the view only link, I just need to update it. And then you will get, those updates will come through. So Adobe Express allows us to kind of take these various aspects to it, right? These various parts, add in different things. We can add in images from school. We can add in our school logo. We can add in anything that we need to. They can really make something that's happening within school come to life. We can have videos of things that have been taking place. I've obviously just done this as a very, very brief example, but the more detail you go into, in fact, one of the activities I'm doing with learners in the live lesson week is to create a newspaper that's going to be in Harry Potter style, where they're going to have a moving image that is going to be, so it's going to tell a news report on a newspaper that will be a news report from the North Pole. So hopefully that has given you an idea of how you can get started with Adobe Express. As I say, the templates are really the great opportunity to see how, I mean, there's literally hundreds of them, but these guided activities are great. It's great for you guys to go through. This is maybe not going to be as relevant, but even if you make one newsletter and then you just go through, that's maybe going to take a bit of the load off and make things that little bit easier. Anything else you want me to look at there, Pam, or anything else? We've got time, folks, so if you're needing me to go back over anything.
No, I think we just open it to questions at this point, and then we get time back for people to maybe go and pick one of the ones that we've mentioned and have a go at one of the demos. I'm literally just about to ping on the slide deck for everybody, so I think that would be helpful. So yeah, quick question. I'm just going to pick up. I'm going to stop the recording if that's okay,
Yeah, I'll
and then
stop
I'll
sharing.
pick up that question. That's